Hello and welcome back to another podcast. My name is Sawera Ahmed and I'm a trainee sports journalist at Pulse Social.
Today's guests are Manayka, Navika and Vedika, who are here today to discuss their love for sport and the cultural and gender differences they experienced whilst playing in the UAE. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, we're good, thank you. I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you.
I'm okay, thank you.
That's good. Can you all just start off by introducing yourselves?
Sure, I can go first. So my name is Manayka. I am 21 years old, currently studying in Nottingham, doing my master's in Nottingham sports law. Just recently graduated doing sports science in West London. And yeah, I'm the eldest as well out of the three of us.
Hi, my name's Navika. I'm 19. I just finished my first year at university. I'm going into my second year this September. I'm studying sports science and I'm hoping to do physiotherapy at postgrad level. But yeah.
Hi, my name is Vedika. I'm 14 years old. I'm currently in year 9. I've just chosen my GCSEs and I've chosen history, German, triple science, PE and astronomy. And that's really it.
Thank you for that. Can you all tell me about your interest in sports and where this began?
Yes. So I first became interested in sport in primary school. So we were all born and raised in the UAE in Dubai, except for Navs. She was born in Sharjah, which is different to Dubai. But yeah, so I grew up playing, well, we actually all grew up playing tennis. Something our dad really liked to try and put into us. But none of us liked waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning too much. But we played a lot of tennis, but I think it was an individual sport and we all liked playing team sports. So I grew up playing a lot of netball because I think when we were younger, pretty much when I was younger anyways, netball was pretty much the only accessible sport for women. But I loved it anyway. So I grew up playing a lot of netball. And by the time I came to Dubai to the UK when I was 16 for boarding school, I still played netball, but then I realized netball was a little bit more serious in the UK than it is in the UAE. So they take it really seriously. And I didn't think I fitted into the certain demographic of netballers in the UK. So by the time I got into university to do my undergrad, I was like, I want to do something completely different. So then I started playing rugby and I've loved it since. It's a big difference to netball, but yeah, I mean, when we were younger, we all played in loads of sports. So we used to go to the park and play loads of games. Even though it's hot, we still tried to find time to play about with whatever we could, to be honest. But I did try football and it never really worked out. I got made fun of too many times. I got told to stop, so I did stop.
But yeah, no, just literally what just Maneka said. I think all three of us, we grew up playing sports from a very young age. We were exposed to it as a family. So it's we'd grow up, my parents would always be like, oh, let's get you into sports, let's do this. So I think all three of us, we started very young and we kind of just got, it kind of just started and got taken to another level in school. And then towards the end of primary school, that's when we started taking it seriously. Obviously, Vedika, she came to the UK for primary school, so it's a bit different for her. But in general, I think all three of us, our love for sports kind of grew more with the sports competition. And then that's when we realized, oh, we want to take it a bit further and take it outside. So yeah.
Yeah, I do think what helped a lot, I think with Veds as well, particularly, should probably talk about more, is we all grew up being forced to support Liverpool as well as a football team. So we would watch a lot of football at home. And without realizing, that kind of initiated some sort of spark to play and watch sports. For Veds, it's really different. I take it. Yeah, Veds, you can have a go.
Yeah, you can talk.
I'll just say that it was more like I saw Navs and Maneka play first, and I saw them play tennis because they were old enough to actually go and take lessons. So I saw them play, and then that's when I started to realize that maybe I wanted to play sports as well. So I actually tried, but it was at a very young age that we all started.
So thank you for that. So, Manayka, this is a question for you. Did you have to overcome any issues when you were playing in the UAE?
I mean, overcoming is a bit of a hard word, like a hard thing to explain, because like you never really overcome it, but you can address it. And I think that's something that I did quite well, as I addressed a lot of the issues. One thing that really stood out to me is during our PE lessons, we would have a lot of, I think even when I was about Ved's age, about 15, 14, I was about year 9, year 10, and we would be split into boys and girls groups in PE, and they'd be like 2-hour sessions because it was a double period. And it'd be like the first half, we would be like, girls, okay, you can go and go up to the dance studio upstairs, and boys will go play football outside. And then for the second half, boys, you can come down back into the studio and you guys can go to the gym. And girls, if you want to set up badminton downstairs, you can do that as well. And that happened so often. And I don't think teachers had an intent to do that, but I think it was very ignorant to assume girls only wanted to dance and play badminton. And there were times that I put my hand up, and there was a moment I remember quite well saying, can I go to the gym? Am I allowed to go to the gym as well and lift some weights? And the teacher, he was like, oh, no, of course you can. I mean, if girls, if that's something you want to do, you can do that. But it was just the assumption that they made that we wanted to do non-contact sports, which was ridiculous in my opinion. I mean, rugby was never introduced or encouraged to women or girls in school, and neither was football at all. I mean, I joined football after school clubs, and there would be only boys. None of them would pass to me. None of them would do anything. And I think I literally only went for like 2 sessions, and that was it. I literally gave up. So I didn't overcome them because I would never be able to fix that. It's kind of rooted into how it was at the time, especially early like 2000s. But yeah, I mean, it was important that we addressed them, but at the time there was not much I felt like I could do as such. I mean, even when I was playing for athletics teams, us doing some sort of field activities as well, and I used to do shot put and discus and javelin, it'd be hard to get girls to fill up those slots because not a lot of them wanted to do that because it was seen, we shouldn't be strong as such. And I know it's so cliche, and to think that that's how my time was when at Bed's age it's beyond me, to be honest. Like, I couldn't imagine Bed's going through the kind of things that I did growing up, and it was only just a few years difference, to be honest. But a lot has changed. I take it. I hope so, anyways.
Yeah, thank you. So this is for Navika and Vedika. What was your experience like playing in the UAE and Dubai?
I think it was a lot different. I can say it was a lot different to the UK. I think as a country itself, like, we're not really exposed to as many sports growing up, let alone as like young women. And I think we kind of, like Manayka said, it was always focused towards the males or like the boys. It'd be always like, oh, in PE lessons, we've got this going on, we've got football and dance. It's very stereotypical. And I think that's just how it is. I think for all 3 of us, maybe not so much Veds, because she obviously grew up here more. But I think it's just with Dubai or the UAE, I just feel like there wasn't as many opportunities as there were here. I know it's a fast developing country, as every other country, most countries around here, but it's just like, I think with us being young Asian women as well, I think we weren't really exposed to as many opportunities as we were being in the UK. Although we all do play male dominated sports, I think like even with rugby, like Manayka plays rugby, but I don't think she was really, none of us were really exposed to rugby growing up in Dubai at all as a sport. I don't remember having any rugby lessons in general. And I think it's just in Dubai or the UAE, I just feel like if you wanted to have that further step, if you wanted to take that further step, you would have to do it yourself. You would have to make the first step, like the first move. There's not really a lot of exposure there. And I think if you are, it will be one in like 100 kind of thing. Like, I feel like a lot of teams that, from my personal experience, I played for 2 different teams in Dubai for basketball, and I grew up being the only girl. It was a male team. It was a male dominated team. It was in all the sign-up sheets, it always said boys basketball and never said anything about females. But my parents always persisted and said, you know what, let's get you involved, because there's no female basketball teams around. So I think growing up, it's just one thing about that I can say is that we've not got as much exposure as we do coming like growing up in the UK. So I feel like we have coming here, I know I've got loads of more opportunities here than I have ever in my whole life growing up in Dubai. So that's one thing I can definitely say.
I think it was in Dubai, it was very much of you take it more as a fun thing. I always took football in Dubai or the UAE as more something that I wanted to just do like as a hobby, maybe just out of school. But since I've come to the UK and England, I've taken it seriously. They take it more seriously here in England, and it's where I actually can take it further. Instead, in Dubai, I'd maybe just stay at the same club until I was probably 16, and then I'd probably have to quit because there was probably not a better team that I could go to. So it was very much like I was kind of like held back a little bit with how much I wanted to go further in the sport. But otherwise, it was very much I was in a full boys team. So the boys team, I didn't actually really get recognized until the last year I left. But it was all right with the boys because the boys were young still, so they were still my age, so they didn't actually know how to be sexist or anything, I feel. And so they actually did like engage me in all the drills and in the matches, and I gained a lot of friends there, especially with the coaches and the players.
Thank you for that. So Manayka, back to you. So you came to the UK in 2017.
Yeah.
Was playing, so again, this is very much looking at the differences. Was playing sports any different to how it was in the UAE for you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I touched on it a bit earlier, but coming when I was 16 and playing netball, again, netball is so small in comparison between the UAE and the UK. It's so small in the UAE that there was a time where I actually thought I could make this professional. I'm going to turn netball into an Olympic sport. I want to be the first South Asian woman to play netball. I had those aspirations when I was in Dubai, and reality kind of hit me when I came to the UK, and I thought, wow, I'm not as tall and skinny, and there aren't any South Asian women playing netball that I've been to. And I went to an all girls private school for boarding, so I was really, really marginalized in terms of being the only person interested in this. And what was ironic is that the team that I had played with in the UAE, the same coach was there in the UK once I came coaching another team that I was interested in. And there was, even though they were a great coach, there was a lot of I don't know what the word is, there was a lot of disappointment in terms of that, because I faced a lot of judgment even in the UAE by that coach. They wouldn't spell my name right. They were kind of ignorant in terms of pronouncing my name right, encouraging me to participate in the sport more. And she was English herself. She was white English herself. And obviously at that time, it made me feel like I wasn't part of the team as it was, because they never took the time to really get me. So now that I've come to a different country without my family, without any friends even, to a new sport that's completely intimidating. It's not a new sport, but like a sport that is new here in the UK. It's completely different to what is in the UAE. I felt like I was still not recognized by that same coach, because I've come in and that's the only team available. But yeah, I mean, again, rugby was not accessible in an all girls private school. There was not that. And I'm sure Nav can even mention it to you, but we went to the same school, but there was no basketball team either. And it was just tennis, netball. I don't even know what else, squash, maybe swimming, but sports that we weren't interested in particularly. So, there were times where I had to make up for lunchtime for Navs to play basketball, because they had to have a sixth former come in to supervise children, girls to play sports in the sports hall. So I used to take up my time to get a basketball session going on. I used to organize drills pretending like I knew how to play basketball. But the point was is that wasn't accessible for us. And we thought perhaps coming to the UK could have done more, but in reality maybe didn't, but it was quite a slow burner. I think it was really slow. You really have to put yourself out there. I mean, it was different. I came in, I think coming to the UK made me have a lot more self-doubt in my ability as a sportswoman, I think, in terms of netball anyways. I once I got here, I was like, there's no way I'm going to go professional in any way possible, but I know that I'm still enjoying myself playing rugby, and that's all I could ask for at this point, to be honest. But yeah, I felt like I was too old to come to the UK if I felt like I needed to do something, because athletes nowadays, they're starting in the womb, like, you know, they're starting as soon as they come out. They're elite athletes. So but yeah, that the major difference was is that I think in terms of diversity as well, I think that would be the biggest difference between the UAE and UK. You don't see South Asians playing sport, let alone South Asian women playing sport. So yeah, that would be my biggest difference.
Yeah, thank you for that. So just to touch up more on diversity, would you, for all three of you, would you say there are any cultural differences that you experienced when you were playing?
Nazbez, you can go ahead first. I need time to think.
Want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I can go first.
Oh, okay.
I would say I haven't had much cultural differences, but I have had a few. Like maybe in the UK, I didn't get much in the UAE, Dubai, but in the UK, I've gone to trials, and a regular white English girl, or it was mainly a white English team. They wouldn't pass me the ball at all in the trials, in which as well as the coaches were also a little bit racist to me, because they didn't notice me and they didn't actually like try and get me involved in the actual trial. So I've had a little bit of like racism in that way, but otherwise I haven't actually had any more cultural differences, because I'm still at a young age in which I don't really think I should be experiencing it at this age. But yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Go on.
Yeah, okay. I think that I get so like passionate about these things because it's just like there's a lot of microaggressions, and I don't think that even us ourselves are aware of them, because they're so micro that we don't even pick up on how often it happens. And I think one thing for all three of us is the microaggressions when it comes to our names. There's always got to be a nickname given to us for some reason, and it's always in sports. And when I first started playing, it was like, do you have a shorter name, or do you have something easier to say, or do you have another name that we can use? And it's like, well, what's wrong with my name? And it wasn't until I went to uni and they said, well, Manayka is a bit long to say, can we just use Manny? And I was like, you know what, just use it. I don't even care at this point, because I don't want to cause friction or tension and cause this awkwardness between us, to ensure that you say my name, my full name. So the cultural differences would 100% be name, because people don't, our names aren't popular and they're very clearly not English. So it's just a matter of fact that people use that as their first impressions of us, and they kind of already assume that we're not English, and that's how they kind of avoid us, because they don't want to talk to us and mispronounce our names. But yeah, names for me is the biggest cultural difference in that way. Go ahead, Az.
Yeah, no, I was literally just about to say that. I think just growing up, you know, we've always, as being South Asians alone is a big difference, but I think just our names, like Manayka said, it's always a big factor. Like, for example, one of the teams that I played or went for a trial for like 3 years ago, I introduced myself, everyone was struggling to say my name. They're like, what's your nickname? I said, you know what, you can call me Navs, it's okay. And then there was this other South Asian girl who had a really long name herself, and we introduced each other. I said Navs, because I've introduced myself to other people. I said, oh, my name's Navs. And then she gave me her nickname, her like shorter name. And we both looked at each other and we both said, what's your full name? Like, that's how we both know, like, there's like a huge stereotype around it. And I think like for myself, I've definitely experienced a lot of discrimination from just playing my sport, let alone it being a male dominated sport. Like I've dealt with a lot of sexism, a lot of racism in general. One of my first teams that I joined coming to this country, like I had no idea what I was doing coming to this country. I had no idea what level everyone else would be performing at. Like I could have been, I walked into that trial thinking, oh, okay, like I could be the worst person here, honestly, because I've never played with anyone outside of the UAE. But then I came, and then turns out later, 2 years down the line, that team was horrible to me. I didn't progress at all. The coach was very racist. I paid almost like large amounts of money for a season that I only played like 4 or 5 minutes. And to me, that was a big thing for me coming to the UK. I was like, oh my God, like I've joined a team. I've got to play. I'm still on the bench, so it still matters. I'm still part of the team. But now coming like along further down the line, where I'm playing in like a Division 1 team and I'm getting all my minutes, I'm getting my money's worth now, I'm getting recognized. It makes me look back and realize that I went through that. Like I had to face racism. Like my own coach didn't let me play. My own team took that money out of us. And I think that's something that us three, I think, can all relate to in general. Like coaches, people that we are supposed to look up to, people who are supposed to be our role models, aren't doing their job, aren't like promoting this integrity between everyone or inclusivity between everyone. And I think as a generation, or as like South Asians in general, like even when I had to speak to that other girl and she told me her nickname, the way we both had to talk it out and say, I know, like this is what we have to do. Every team that we've been through, we had to give our nickname. It was a bit upsetting because obviously in the moment you laugh about it, but when you look back at it, you think, why do we have to go through this? Like we're just like everyone else, just because, you know, we look different or just because we've got more unique names and you're not used to hearing that doesn't mean you have to treat us any differently. So I think there are huge cultural differences in sport anywhere, wherever you are. I think there's just cultural differences everywhere.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of a time actually when I was playing netball during my A levels, and I chose netball as my main sport for my PE A level. And obviously, we have to get it videoed like you would in GCSE. And I had been very committed to that netball team, like so committed. It was a women's team. I'd go every session, even though my A levels going, I still had to do the commute myself. I had to go far. And when I got videos of me playing, even though I played all season, never missed a game, I looked over the video and I saw them, what I saw and heard them talking in the background, kind of saying, oh, what was that girl's name again? And I just sat there and was like, well, you completely first of all ruined my video, because now it looks like you have no idea who I am. And I can't mute it because they need to hear me communicating as well. So I had to keep that video part in. So they were like, what's that girl's name? And they were talking to someone else and they were in the background going between each other like, I have no idea, start to or something like that. I was like, I've played a whole season with you. My surname is on the back of my dress. You can see my name, and you know, we have WhatsApp group chats, we have you have me on my social media, you have my name everywhere, but for some reason you've forgotten it. And then there was an awards season, awards given out right at the end of the season, and I was the only person in that team that actually took time to attend that awards. Because everyone's busy. I'm busy as well. I'm doing my A levels. A levels is ridiculous. It takes so much out of you to do your A levels, but I still made time to commit to this award ceremony that I didn't need to go. But I was so confident that I was going to receive an award for how well I played in the season and for how well we did as a team. I was the only person in the team that didn't get an award. So even though everyone else wasn't there, I was the only person who didn't receive anything. I was the only one there, sat leg crossed on the court. They read everyone's names out but myself. They got a sticker and a trophy. And I was the only one left without anything. And it was the most embarrassing day of my life. And I think at that point, I realized I'm done. I'm actually finished with netball. I don't get the recognition I deserve. I don't get any kind of acknowledgements for the time I put in. And I think that goes for all of us. We don't get a well done enough in our sport at all. We don't get a you did great or good job or keep going, because they don't understand what goes on behind the scenes and the things that we have to deal with when we go back home. So we don't get enough acknowledgement in our sport at all. And that is partially because of the cultural differences, 100%.
Of course, and it's really difficult, especially when you're so passionate about something, and that's how you receive it back. It must be difficult.
Yeah, it's so frustrating, especially when it's sports that you grew up loving. I played the sport since I was like in year 3, and it was like it only took one moment for me to say like, yeah, I'm done. I'm finished. I don't want to do this anymore. And that's something I would hate for Navs and Veds to see, because they don't deserve to go through any of that and let a few people and their ignorance kind of bring you down for what they did. I was mentally and physically exhausted by netball, and I knew it was a very toxic sport for me. So I just got myself out of it completely.
Yeah, I don't think people actually understand like the impact it has on us, like on a personal, physical and mental like way. I think even myself, like that first team that I came to the UK, I had doubts. I was like, is basketball really for me? I grew up in Dubai. I always used to be that girl that all the guys would be like, oh, I make a shot. They're like, oh, okay, you made a shot. Like, yeah, that used to be me. And coming to the UK after experience all the like different behaviors from my coaches, from my teammates, even like other my teammates' parents. Like, I used to hear my teammates' parents talking in videos on the bench. My dad would be recording a video, and then my dad would be sitting next to all the other parents. They'd be like, oh, who's this? Or is that the new girl? And my dad would have to say in the video, that's my daughter, Navika. So it's like, it's little things like that. I think I've had my self-doubts about how far I can go with basketball. But I think growing up as South Asians with the people around us as well, I think we realize that's the only thing that can actually genuinely push us further. Because at this point in time, if someone was to just say, oh, or just ignore us, I think if we got no reaction, that would probably make me want to stop more. But because I got a reaction out of them thinking, oh, who are you? Or, you know, I'm always getting something out of them. I think that's probably what pushed me a bit more. I think, I don't know about Vedika. I don't know Manayka said that she obviously felt like, you know, netball wasn't really worth it towards that point. But I definitely felt that as well at some point in my basketball career. But I think you just learn from it. I think as South Asians, it's something every South Asian girl unfortunately has to go through. And it's not something you can avoid. It's not something you can overcome. Like Manayka said, it's not something you can just, you have to expect it. Like, as bad as it sounds, you have to expect it. Like, what you don't expect, like if you expect it, you can't get hurt. If you expect it, it won't affect you. If you don't expect it and you don't see it coming, that's when it'll hit you. And that's why when my first year in the UK, it hit me, because I didn't expect it. I didn't expect to deal with all this racism, discrimination around me. So I was like, oh my God, I'm not good for this sport. But growing into it, playing for other people, meeting new people, it made me realize, like, you know what, that pushes me further to go like even more, take the extra step. So yeah, 100%.
So thank you for that. Navika, I know you briefly touched upon it, but would you say there are gender gaps in sports now?
Yes, 100%. I think I would say depending on most sports. Obviously, some sports are predominantly male, some sports are predominantly female, but I think in this day and age, like, anyone should be able to play what they want. Growing up, like Manayka said, we grew up playing tennis. It's not really a predominantly male or female sport. Like, it's an individual sport, but we all knew it wasn't really us. We all kind of played it just for our dads, to be honest. Let's make them happy. But yeah, so I think 100%, like I said, I was the only female in my basket, like in all my basketball teams in Dubai, I was the only female. And it was never really a case where it was girls training or mixed basketball. It was always boys basketball and a girl. Like, I was that only girl. And like even Vedika said earlier, she said she grew up from like playing with just boys. And obviously at that level, sexism, racism doesn't really matter. You're a young kid, you're just trying to have fun. But I think as you grow up, you hear those stereotypes from other guys. Like, even the other day I went, because I'm on summer holiday, I still need to practice like my preseason and off season and everything. So I went to the basketball courts, my local one, and there were these group of guys, and I said, you know what, usually I would be a bit hesitant to like play with them because it's a bunch of guys and I'm one girl, and you know, I don't want to be like, oh, you're like, I don't want to hear those comments. But the other day I was there first, they came to join in, and then they ended up running like a 5v5, and there were 10 of them and 11 including me. So they made a 5v5 scrimmage with just them 10 and didn't like try and get me involved, even though I was there shooting around with them beforehand. And when I did get to play with them, it was more of a case where I was just there, you know, trying to just take an extra man, distract them. I think it's just more of a case where, as a female, let alone a South Asian, you are definitely going to like experience sexism. Like, even I grew up playing like netball rounders and everything, even rounders, like, it was a mixed team, but majority of the time they would make the boys go first. majority of the time they'd put the boys in deep fielding because, you know, they're stronger, or they'd put the boys in near the bases because they can react quicker and run. They'd put the guys first for like the batsmen because, you know, they're stronger, they can hit it far, they got better accuracy. Like I've grown up like around it all the time, and I think that's something like, I think I'm very thankful for that though. I think playing a male sport, I think it's kind of just boosted our confidence. I think for all three of us, to be honest, like we all play male dominated sports, and I think it's just kind of shot our confidence through the roof, and it's kind of made us rethink like, oh, if I can do it, other people can. Doesn't make you special just because you're a boy, just because you're a male doesn't mean that I can't do it. So I think, yeah, 100%, there still are gender gaps in every sport, I think.
Thank you for that. So Vedika, this is for you. So you being the youngest of your sisters, what have you learned so far from them?
I'd probably say that I've learned that confidence is actually what you really need, because when it comes to these type of things, knowing that they've gone through it, they've told me stories about what's happened to them, and so now I know when I grow older, I can be prepared for it. So I know how to act when maybe I trial for a new team, or I'm just playing in school sports or a sports competition. It's just how I can like portray myself in front of everyone, and it's just that like especially in a team sport as well. They've taught me that confidence is all you really need, and it's just not me, because whenever I have a bad game, I sometimes even cry about it, but they always tell me that it's a team sport, and so you're not the only one that had a bad game, because if it was only you, it'd be just a single sport. But if I couldn't be the only one that just had a bad game. So they've taught me how to be confident and how to act when these things actually happen.
Thank you for that. So to end off, what do you hope will change over the years in terms of women in sports?
I think it's a really good question, because the list is long. I'm not gonna lie to you. The list is really long. I think just more exposure to the sport. There needs to be more role models. More women need to speak up and, you know, say that this is what we want to do. This is where we want to go. Just like myself, I want to go to sports law, but I don't have that role model. I don't know where my end goal is, because I don't see many people like myself in that position. So I'm always trying to look and find who there is to follow. And it'd be great for more women to actually expose themselves, and for men to allow women to have that exposure, you know, to men to be these allies for women, and to encourage them to go where they want to go and how far they go. But I know women's football's come such a long way, and we're all huge fans of like the women's football in general, and partially because Ved's, you know, we're hoping one day she'll be part of that. but we just I think just the exposure, I mean, it's slowly growing, and it's definitely a lot better than what it was a year ago, let alone hundreds of years ago. So it's always improving, and I think we're all very grateful for that. But it's just about keeping that consistency to keep it going. Women need to find the confidence as well to push themselves into those brackets that they don't want to go into. I'm still one of 5 other women in my course, and there's 30 to 40 other men, and you know, there's not enough of us. We need to, if that's what we want to do, we need to be able to feel like we can do that. But I think, yeah, women's sport is going in the right direction, I'll definitely say, but there's work on it. There's more time that needs to go into it, more money that needs to go into it, and there needs to be more men that support it. 100%. There's not enough men that understand that there is a difference in women and men's sport, and we need more men to recognize that and support it. By doing nothing is not supporting. By saying that, oh, we agree that women's sport is not doing enough, that's not enough. We need you to start sitting there watching our games. We need you to encourage us. Go, you know, encourage women to start playing. Bring in your sisters, bring in your families, bring in your aunts, your mums, you know, actually put views onto the women's sport. Go out, watch them live. You know, we need the interaction. We need action over the words. So I think men don't realize the amount of a role they play into this as well, and we need them to do that. But yeah, it's definitely in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, no, I think Maneka's kind of just said it all, to be fair. Like, obviously, there's a lot more, but I think just the main thing, like exposure. Growing up, I didn't have that basketball female player that I could look up to. And I know Veds, she's obviously we've all grown into watching women's football, like the women's Euros. We went out of our way. We went out to nice places in London and stuff like that just to go watch it because we got joy out of it. We got like a lot of confidence and like just like an extra boost, like, you know, you can do it. If we can do it, you can do it kind of as well. So I think it's just exposure, and just having I think also having the right support system around you as well. I think you can have a lot of exposure, but if you don't have the right people around you to also support you and to also help you, then you're going to struggle just as much as someone who doesn't have that experience or that exposure. So I think that's definitely one thing I'll definitely say, role models, that we all need. I think every woman needs it, not even South Asians, but for us, I think it's a lot harder just by being South Asians. Our lives are just harder. Like, we just have to face that. But like we said, like Maneka said, if someone's not going to do it, who's going to do it? If, like Maneka said, there's no other sports law student that she's seen or a role model that she's looking at. If no one else can do it, Maneka can do it. Like, if no one else is going to do it, we need to step up. We need to do that for the future generations, for vets, for our children, for like everyone else, even like kids our age. It doesn't necessarily, even people older than us. I could be a role model to Maneka if I wanted to. Like, I could be a role model to other older people. So it's like, I think we just need to be there for people. And I think just the exposure, experience, everything. There's multiple factors, to be honest.
I mean, Maneka did pretty much say it all, but I would also just, I would just add, that it just, when it comes down to things like maybe like booking a ticket to go see the women's game, it comes down to the women's ticket will probably be like £40, but for the men's game, it might be up to £100. It's things like that, and how much the women get paid, like every week compared to how much the men's get paid, because the men's get paid almost millions each week, but the women's get paid almost around like 10,000 each week. And so I feel like I just hope that kind of changes a little bit. But I feel like we are going in the right way, in the right direction. But I feel like it's also that when it comes to like this type, I just hope it gets easier to be recognized, and that it gets easier to be recognized and to be able to play the sport that you want and to be able to do things that boys can do. Because I feel like we're still not at that stage. Like, when I'm playing football for my team, I feel like I don't do, like, I could be doing some really like technical drills, some fitness drills, but I feel like they take it easy on us because we're girls and we're women. So I feel like we need to get to the stage where it should be the same almost.
Just to quickly say, I just want to quickly say that I think, going back to what Now said about having a good network, I think a lot of credit goes to our parents as well for being able to like push the boundaries for us as well. You don't get a lot of South Asian parents that kind of push the boundaries that our parents have done for us. So I think we're really grateful for that, in that sense, for them to allow us to get to where we want in the sports industry. So yeah, having a good network is really important as well.
Thank you for that. And thank you to all three of you for being on the podcast and sharing your experiences.
That's okay. Thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.